Chapter 1. In my past life, I was the envied wife of a high-ranking military officer, but my husband Mengshuren suffered battlefield injuries to both his vocal cords and groin, leaving him impotent and mute. Thus began our 40-year sexless marriage. I never complained, living in silent devotion as a grass widow, spending half my life with a mute man, until my 60th birthday, when I stumbled upon over 500 phone cards in his study. All calls made to an unattainable Sanyan dance troupe beauty he pined for. Turns out he wasn't incapable of speech, he simply chose not to speak to me. He's perfectly capable of being a man, just not my man. The crushing blow sent me to my grave with bitter regret. When I opened my eyes again, it was 1984. In this lifetime, I'll never suffer for any man again. The 1980s were a golden age for entrepreneurship. Riding the winds of reform, I'm heading to Shenzhen to chase my dreams. The Shenzhen Special Economic Zone was established in August 1980 and had only been developing for 4 years at that point. Transportation from my hometown to there was severely underdeveloped. In this era, there were obviously no planes or bullet trains, just those old-fashioned green passenger trains. Not only would it take 3 transfers, but the earliest available train wasn't until Sunday. I circled the date on my calendar with a red marker, 5 more days, and I'd finally leave this remote, isolated mountain village. I borrowed the Women's Association director's bicycle and rode all afternoon, finally reaching the station just before sunset to purchase my ticket. Turning around, I spotted Mengshuren stepping off the train at the station exit. I'd been reborn, and he'd regained 40 years of youth, towering and straight-backed with striking arched brows and piercing eyes. He carried an imposing military bearing as the youngest regimental commander in the army. The future holds limitless possibilities. The man I loved for decades in my past life. I naively believed that sharing a marriage certificate would make us family, even if he couldn't speak, make love, or give me a child. I bore no resentment. Instead, she devoted her entire life's love and passion to caring for him, bringing him warmth. In the end, she turned her own life into a complete joke. Mengshuren's handsome brows furrowed when he saw me. He spoke with evident displeasure. Yetin, didn't I tell you not to come meet me at the station? It suddenly dawned on me. Today was the day Mengshuren was returning home on leave from the army. In my past life, around this time, I'd sent him a telegram, mentioning we'd been engaged for 3 years already, and how in the countryside, a 20-year-old was practically considered an old maid. So I told Mengshuren I wanted to get married and become a military dependent. In the military, officers above certain ranks can have their spouses and children join them at the base. The army also helps military families with job placements and children's schooling. For couples enduring long-term separation, this is their most cherished hope. Mengshuren was promoted to regimental commander last year, which qualified him for military family accompaniment. I've been longing for him to bring me along ever since, but he kept refusing, frustrated. I sent a telegram threatening to show up at his barracks with my luggage if he didn't come for me. Mengshuren came back grudgingly, specifically telling me not to meet him at the station. I knew he was deliberately keeping me at arm's length. It broke my heart in my past life. I thought we were practically married after the engagement even without the license or consummation. In the countryside that made us husband and wife. I want to be with Mengshuren, hoping to get our marriage certificate soon so I can join him at the military base and take care of his daily needs. I'll give him children too, but in this lifetime, I've given up on being a military wife. My mind was set on making it in Shenzhen, so I even forgot about Mengshuren's return. I'm just here to buy a ticket to Xincheng, not to pick him up at all. Mengshuren misunderstood, his handsome face etched with impatience. In such a hurry. We're still young, there's no need to rush into marriage. Military life is tough. Joining you wouldn't be some cushy vacation. Your presence would just distract me. I still want to keep advancing my career. Mengshuren immediately listed all the reasons he didn't want me joining the army. I'm not here to pick you up. I agree it's too early to get married. Count me out of this wedding. My words left Mengshuren utterly stunned, but it quickly turned into a mocking smile. Yi Tan, when did you learn the art of strategic retreat? Mengshuren was convinced I was head over heels for him, refusing to believe I'd actually give up on following him to the military. I couldn't be bothered to explain. Anyway, in 5 days I'll be leaving for Shenzhen. From now on, the world is vast with no more ties to bind. It's over 20 miles from the city to the village. I borrowed the Women's Association director's bicycle to get here. On the way back, Mengshuren gave me a ride on his bike. Naturally, he rode faster than me, but it still took over 2 hours to reach the village. He didn't utter a single word to me the entire way. An awkward silence hung over our journey. It reminded me of those 40 years of marriage in my past life, mute and utterly lonely. It was already past 8 in the evening when we reached the village. The villagers were thrifty, reluctant to turn on lights at night, leaving the whole settlement pitch dark. Our arrival set off a chorus of barking dogs. My mother passed away early, and my father died 10 years ago, saving Mengshuren. I've been living with the Meng family all these years. Uncle and Aunt Meng treated me like their own daughter-in-law, showering me with affection. As we entered, Aunt Meng was reheating food by the stove while nagging at Mengshuren. Son, you did right by bringing your wife along to the army base, seeing each other every day. We can't wait to hold our chubby little grandson soon. Mengshuren pressed his lips tightly together without a word. He was a man of unwavering conviction. In his previous life, having failed to marry the woman he loved, he chose to remain childless rather than settle, letting the Meng family line die with him. Uncle Meng and Aunt Meng both passed away with unfulfilled regrets. Be good to Yezi, the Yi family saved your life. If Uncle Yi hadn't rescued you back then, you wouldn't even be alive, let alone a regiment commander. Sensing his son's impatience, Uncle Meng quickly added his final words. Enough, I already said I'll marry her. Will you stop pressuring me? I'm grateful Uncle Yi saved me, but it was just an accident. I'd rather die than owe such a huge debt of gratitude. Let me spend my whole life making it up. 10 years ago, my father served as the militia captain in our village. That year, a flash flood swept Mengshuren into the mountain ravine. My father dove into the raging waters and managed to save Mengshuren, but exhausted himself and drowned, left orphaned. I've lived with the Meng family ever since. Child, from now on you'll be our Meng family's own daughter, Shuren's rightful wife. That promise ruined my entire life. Mengshuren married me because of that vow, yet he felt morally blackmailed into it. He resented me for hijacking his life and stealing his chance at love, even after 40 years of marriage. He wouldn't touch me or bother speaking to me. What kind of attitude is that? That's no way to talk to someone. You think just because you're a regiment commander now, I won't put you in your place, you little brat. Even if you become a general, I'll still be your father. Uncle Meng bristled with anger, worried I'd take it to heart. He grabbed a rolling pin to beat Mengshuren. Uncle, he's exhausted, let's eat first. I stepped in to defuse the situation. Anyway, I'll be leaving in a few days. I just want some peace and quiet, not this racket. I know full well, the angrier Uncle Meng gets, the more Mengshuren will despise me. Stubborn folks like him can't be beaten into submission. Sweetheart, Auntie Meng held my hand and whispered her advice. A man needs proper managing. Don't spoil him too much. What a wonderful mother-in-law. But fate decided we'd never have that mother-daughter-in-law bond in this lifetime. We'd just sat down at the dinner table when the village loudspeaker blared with the village chief's booming voice. Shuren, the army just called. They said it's urgent. I'll say it again. Shan. Meng Shan stood up abruptly upon hearing the announcement. I must return to my unit. He grabbed his backpack and left without looking back. It's exactly like what happened in my past life. He barely had time to sit down at home before Chi Rongrong called him away. Chi Rongrong was a performer in the military's cultural troupe. She was beautiful, talented in singing and dancing, and could recite poetry. She was Mengshuren's first love, though back in those days, the term first love wasn't yet in vogue. Yet for Chi Rongrong, Mengshuren would move mountains and cross oceans. After Mengshuren left in my past life, Uncle and Aunt Meng sent me to the military and even arranged for a division commander to officiate our wedding, unable to withstand the pressure. Mengshuren finally agreed to register our marriage and let me join him as a military spouse, but on our wedding night, Chi Rongrong's phone call dragged him away again. Then he claimed he had to go on a mission. When he returned, both his vocal cords and groin were injured. Chapter 2. I remained a virgin my entire life. 2. For the next 40 years, I could only communicate with my husband through writing and gestures. I swallowed my tears and devoted myself completely to caring for his daily needs. Tending to my parents-in-law. How stupid of me. It never occurred to me, if he were truly mute, how could he have risen from regiment commander to general in the military? He would have been medically discharged long ago. He communicates perfectly fine when giving orders in the army. He just can't be bothered to talk to me at home. I've always kept to myself and never pried into his military affairs. That's how I remained in the dark for decades. On my 60th birthday, while cleaning his study, I discovered a box containing over 500 phone cards. They were all international calling IC cards. Chi Rongrong later married abroad, went through 2 divorces, and ended up living a rather difficult life. Mengshuren believed he had failed his first love, so he spent 40 years making amends with unwavering tenderness. The house and car Chi Rongrong owned overseas were all purchased by him. He refused to have children with me, yet treated Chi Rongrong's 3 kids from previous marriages as his own. covered all tuition and living expenses for those 3 children. Meng Shuren even attended their weddings as the bride's family representative. I was completely kept in the dark about all this. I never asked where he spent the money. Absolute trust was met with the cruelest betrayal. My entire world shattered when I learned the truth. That desperate plunge from the balcony, so I get to live again. I'm done with emotionally unavailable men. 4 days left until my Shenzhen trip, time to pack my bags. Orphans may be lonely, but the silver lining is having no attachments. We can leave at a moment's notice. A few changes of clothes were stuffed into the travel bag. She'd stitched a hidden pocket into her undershirt, containing her ID card and 300 yuan. That was every penny to my name. Back in 1984, urban workers only earned about 30 yuan a month. 300 yuan was an absolute fortune back then. This is the compensation money after Dad's sacrifice. I've kept it untouched for 10 years. In my previous life when I married Meng Shuren, I used this money to buy him a Shanghai brand watch. I also bought a sewing machine and a brand new Forever bicycle, which I took with me when joining the army, but I never once saw him wear that watch. I'm certainly not going to kiss up to someone who treats me coldly ever again in this lifetime. Those 300 yuan became my seed money for starting a business in Shenzhen. When Uncle Meng and Auntie Meng saw me packing, they assumed I was joining the military and were delighted. They wanted to send me there, but I declined. Aunt Meng gave me 500 yuan again, saying it was the Meng family's betrothal gift, but I kept refusing. Aunt Meng wouldn't take no for an answer and insisted on giving it to me. In the end, I had no choice but to accept it. My father gave his life for the Meng family. I can take this money with a clear conscience. 3 days before leaving for Shenzhen, I visited my parents' graves to say goodbye. Mom, Dad, I'm going to Shenzhen to contribute to the nation's reform and opening up. Wait for your daughter to return. Don't worry about me. I'll be perfectly happy without Meng Shuren. On Sunday, I bid farewell to Uncle and Auntie Meng and left the mountain village I'd called home for over 20 years, boarding the rumbling green train bound for Xinqing. Xinqing lay over 1,000 kilometers away. The journey required 3 transfers and would take 3 days and 2 nights. Whether by coincidence or divine will, the city where I first transferred trains happened to be where Meng Shuren's military unit was stationed. There was a 3-hour layover between trains. It never crossed my mind to use that time to bid Meng Shuren farewell. It's unnecessary, and he couldn't care less. I was just eating noodles at the state-run guest house outside the station when I unexpectedly ran into Meng Shuren and also spotted Qi Rongrong. In the early 1980s, Chinese people's clothing came in only 2 colors, military green and light gray. Qirengrong stood out in the crowd wearing a canary yellow dress. The two were also dining here. A large bag sat beside Qirengrong. It contained performance costumes. Apparently their cultural troupe was preparing for a show. Meng Shuren had come to see me off at the station. Our eyes met across the platform. I pretended not to recognize him, but after a brief flush of embarrassment, his face quickly regained that trademark look of superiority. He strode right up to me. Yi Tan, you're getting more and more willful. I didn't come to pick you up. Who told you to come to the military base on your own? Do you think joining the army is child's play? There are procedures to follow. You're just making trouble for me. Meng Shuren has been exceptional since childhood. The military saw him as a rising star, and I've always idolized him. His confidence borders on narcissism. Meng Shuren, I'm just passing by, not here for you. Ha ha ha. Meng Shuren burst into mocking laughter. Yi Tan, since when did you learn to lie? Every word out of your mouth is deceit. Just days ago you swore you'd never marry me. And now you've chased me all the way to the military base. I've told you countless times. I'm building my career right now. I won't let you hold me back. He was about to say more when Qi Rongrong spoke up softly. Regimental Commander Meng, please calm yourself outside. Let me talk to Sister Yezi. Sister Yezi traveled all this way to seek your help. We shouldn't turn her away with coldness. Meng Shuren snorted before finally storming out of the guest house. Qi Rongrong moved closer to me, her smile vanishing. She taunted in a whisper only the two of us could hear. What makes a country bumpkin like you worthy of the regiment commander? Chasing after him shamelessly all the way to the military camp. You've got no dignity at all. What? Just threatening Shuren with your father's life to force him to marry you. Pfft. Country bumpkins' lives are worthless anyway. Serves him right to die. She was about to say more. I'd already landed a stinging slap across Qi Rongrong's face. I've waited 2 lifetimes to land this slap. So I put every ounce of strength into it. 5 vivid finger marks bloomed across Qi Rongrong's pale cheek. In my past life, Qi Rongrong had said nearly identical words when I first joined the military unit. Though furious, I held back, afraid Meng Shuren would brand me a shrew if I struck out. But Qirengrong deliberately failed to frame me for hitting her. so I actually gave her a slap this time. To spare her the trouble of putting on that phony act, a look of shock flashed across Kirangrong's face. Clearly didn't expect me to actually strike, but the shock came instantly. She covered her face and wailed, "Captain, she hit me." Mengshuren rushed in at the sound. "Yi Tan, you've gone too far this time, apologize now." Chi Rongrong covered her face, a glint of triumph flashing in her eyes. "In my past life, I was forced to apologize." Through tears, I explained that Chi Rongrong provoked me first, and I never laid a hand on her. But Mengshuren wouldn't listen at all. He refused to believe Rongrong could say such vicious things. Rongrong reads poetry, Shelley, Goethe, Pushkin. I'll never believe she'd be that cruel. I certainly don't owe anyone an explanation in this lifetime. I pushed my chair back and walked out mid-meal. For the first time in all these years, I defied Mengshuren. He was absolutely livid. "If you won't apologize, then get the hell out. I'd never marry a shrew like you." I stopped and turned my head. "Mengshuren, don't worry, you'll never have to see me again." A sudden panic flashed across his face. What do you mean?" "Exactly what you're thinking. At least we were only engaged, not legally married, so our marriage is off. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. Don't feel obligated. Even though my father gave his life to save yours, you don't owe me marriage. Like you said, it was just an accident. My father is a good man. He'd save anyone who fell in the river. He never meant to force you into marrying me. His daughter isn't so undesirable that she needs such tricks to get married." At my words, Mengshuren's face showed both embarrassment and remorse. I didn't mean it that way. I'm really grateful to Uncle Meng for. Save your gratitude. He's passed away. These words mean nothing now. I turned and walked into the station. Mengshuren thought he'd convinced me to return to the village. He let out a long sigh and caught up again. I'll walk you back to the village. Just give me a few more days to think about joining the army. Even now, Mengshuren still refuses to believe I'm really breaking up with him. I couldn't be bothered to explain anymore. Crash. Chi Rongrong deliberately knocked over the table, spilling the noodles I'd just taken one bite of all over herself. Mengshuren abruptly stopped in his tracks, turning back to tend to his beloved. "Call me when you get home." He fished out a 100 yuan bill from his pocket, stuffed it into my hand, then turned and dashed back. I strode into the station, though I told myself not to cry. Tears still streamed down uncontrollably. "Farewell, Mengshuren. From this moment on, you're erased from my life. Mountains and rivers shall part us now. My joys and sorrows are no longer yours to share." After 3 days and 2 nights of rattling along, the train finally reached Shenzhen. In my past life, I visited Shenzhen several times. Back then, Shenzhen had already risen to prominence alongside Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou as a first-tier metropolis, renowned both domestically and internationally for its prosperity. But over 40 years ago, Shenzhen was just a small fishing village beginning its transformation. 1984 marked the year when Shenzhen was brimming with vitality, poised to embark on its rapid development journey. I chose to come to Shenzhen for a fresh start because this city is a paradise for dreamers and entrepreneurs. I walk through Shenzhen's streets, though the cityscape still looks modest at this moment, with few skyscrapers in sight and no luxury cars lining the roads, yet the streets bustle with crowds, alive with regional accents from across the nation. These are all young dreamers who came to Shenzhen to chase their ambitions. Decades later, many household name tycoons and billionaires will emerge from this very group. I was fortunate enough to become one of them, with the advantage of rebirth on my side. I'm certain to achieve success. This way I won't waste the second chance life has given me. I've already got plans for what to do in Shenzhen, though there are already numerous factories in Shenzhen at this time. Some are state-owned, others are joint ventures or foreign-funded, but I never considered factory work. With just a middle school education, even a second chance at life wouldn't magically turn me into a research prodigy. I couldn't possibly develop high-tech stuff like computers, smartphones, or microchips. Besides, my capital's limited to just $1,000 I can only run businesses with low barriers to entry, minimal investment, but decent profitability. The service industry, to be more specific, the food and beverage sector. While this era has opened up opportunities for private enterprise and commerce, self-employed business owners were called gedihu, individual entrepreneurs, yet due to outdated mindsets, most people still viewed being a gedihu as improper, even shameful. The most desirable career paths remained joining the military or working in factories. The ultimate goal was landing a job in state-owned factories. This is what we call an iron rice bowl. As a result, private businesses were extremely rare. Walking down the street, you'd hardly see any shops besides state-run restaurants, post offices, supply and marketing cooperatives, and grocery stores. Take these state-run restaurants for example, every waiter here holds a permanent government position. Forget about the customer is king or service with a smile. Here, the waitstaff all act like they own the place. You get the full treatment, hard to enter, sour faces, and rude remarks. That's why even people who can afford it avoid these state-run restaurants. It's too easy to end up with a bad meal and a belly full of frustration. So I decided to start my entrepreneurial journey by opening a snack shop. The location was chosen in Shikoku Industrial Zone, Shenzhen. I counted over 100 factories here, employing around 50 to 60,000 workers combined. Most are migrants, predominantly single, without the means to cook for themselves. Workers here earn significantly more compared to inland regions. Some can even make up to 200 yuan a month. Though many factories provide canteens, people naturally want better meals when they can afford it. Grab a tasty bite. So the food industry is absolutely essential. Chapter 3. Plus, I have unique advantages. 3. In my past life after joining the army, I worked in logistics managing military canteens. Soldiers in the army come from all corners of the country, each with their own culinary preferences. With no warmth at home and no one to talk to, my only passion became cooking, exploring regional cuisines, signature dishes, and local delicacies across China, Shandong, Sichuan, Cantonese, Fujian, Jiangsu, Zhejiang, Hunan, Anhui cuisines. There's nothing I can't do. I'm great at hot pot, barbecue, and noodles. Even Western cuisine and desserts are a piece of cake. Rent is cheap these days. I spent 150 yuan to rent a storefront by the street, and used the rest of the money to buy kitchenware and ingredients. Yezi restaurant is officially open for business. The 1980s was an era of supply falling short of demand. With enough courage and willingness to work hard, making money was practically guaranteed. My restaurant was packed from day one because we specialize in signature dishes from all over the country. Many migrant workers in Shenzhen come to dine here, saying they can taste the flavors of home. I couldn't handle the workload alone, so I hired 2 waitstaff. The 3 of us were spinning like tops all month. It was exhausting, but the numbers looked good when we ran the books. After deducting rent and staff wages, I made a clean profit of 2,000 yuan. What did 2,000 yuan mean in 1984? That was 2 years' income for a working-class family, or 5 years' earnings for a farmer. I cried over the ledger. These were tears of joy. Women don't need men, because men will betray and hurt you. But the Chinese yuan never will. Half a year has flown by since I came to Shenzhen. The restaurant business keeps getting better and better. My savings finally hit 10,000 yuan, making me a bona fide 10,000 yuan household. That was an enviable title back in the 80s. It carried more prestige than being a millionaire today. My restaurant kept expanding, from renting just 1 storefront to 3. I now had 6 employees working under me. I'm no heartless boss. I'm actually very generous with my staff. Their salaries are way above market rate, plus they get performance bonuses. That's why everyone's so motivated. I was busy working at the restaurant when suddenly I heard a surprised exclamation. Leaf. I turned around and couldn't believe my eyes. It was someone from my hometown, Lu, the accountant from our village. He was in Shenzhen on business and happened to walk into my restaurant for lunch, running into a fellow townsfolk. I naturally showed warm hospitality. Not only did I add several signature dishes, but also picked up the tab. Accountant Lu didn't touch her chopsticks, her face etched with urgency. Yezi, what brings you here? You wouldn't believe it. The Meng family has turned the whole village upside down searching for you these past 6 months. Colonel Meng was practically losing his mind. 6 months ago, I boarded the train to Xinqing. Both the Meng family and villagers assumed I was joining the military unit to register my marriage with Meng Shuren. Later during a transfer, I unexpectedly ran into Meng Shuren and Qi Rongrong. Meng Shuren thought the same. They sent me away again. He assumed I'd gone back to the village. No one knew I'd come to Shenzhen. This created a classic case of crossed wires. The villagers thought I was in the army, while Meng Shuren believed I was back home. The first few days passed without incident. But when Meng Shuren didn't receive my check-in call after several days, he phoned the village to inquire. That's when they realized I never made it back. I just vanished into thin air. Everyone was frantic. Meng Shuren took leave to search for me everywhere. I didn't have a cell phone. Back then, there were no surveillance cameras, and train tickets weren't registered under real names. How could anyone possibly find me? Meng Shuren searched relentlessly for 2 whole months but came up empty-handed. The local police couldn't do anything about it, so everyone assumed something terrible had happened to me. They were convinced I'd been killed on the road, Aunt Meng cried her eyes out every day at home. Uncle Meng broke Meng Shuren's arm with a rolling pin, called him an ungrateful wretch, accused him of causing my death. The whole village pitied me, saying how tragic my situation was. That's why Accountant Liu was so shocked to suddenly see me running a thriving restaurant in Shenzhen. Full of vitality. Yezi, come back with me. Everyone's waiting for you. I'm not going back. I'm doing just fine in Shenzhen. Uncle Liu, could you please tell Uncle Meng and Aunt Meng that I'm doing well? There's no need to worry about me. Accountant Liu slapped his thigh in frustration. Why are you so darn stubborn, girl? What about Commander Meng? So no wedding then? I shook my head firmly. I've had nothing to do with him for ages. After Accountant Liu left, I kept working in the restaurant. The biggest inconveniences of this era are the lack of mobile networks and the absence of online payments. All transactions must be made in cash. Every night after work, I carefully tally up the cash received. The next day at noon, I go to the bank to deposit the money. I dare not keep too much cash on hand to avoid attracting unwanted attention, with my restaurant doing such booming business. It was impossible not to draw attention. It rained that night, leaving the outside world unusually gloomy. I rented a small bungalow in the alley behind the restaurant. Just as I was about to lock up and call it a night, a tremendous force shoved me violently from behind, shoved back into the room again. A sleazy-looking man entered with a sinister grin. He came to rob us. Shenzhen's packed with people, some come to build honest fortunes, others to make quick bucks through shady means. He didn't just come in to rob me, he had other vile intentions. This little lady's quite the looker. The bastard pinned me down on the table and tried to force himself on me. I sank my teeth hard into the bastard's hand. He leapt up, clutching his bleeding hand and cursing furiously, "You damn animal." The thug still wanted to mess with me. I dashed into the kitchen and grabbed a cleaver. "Stay back, or I'll fight you to the death." The thug wasn't intimidated, it only made him more violent. "Damn it, you think I can't handle some little bitch?" He charged at me again. "I'd rather die than be defiled. I've made up my mind. If there's truly no escape, I'll take my own life." At the critical moment, freeze, a man in military uniform burst into the room. The uniform radiated authority, sending the thug scrambling for cover. It was Meng Shuren, though his arm was still in a sling, clearly not fully recovered from the fracture. With just his other hand, he easily subdued the assailant. The local police station came and took him away. Turned out to be a fugitive criminal. Only after everything was settled did Meng Shuren look at me with a complicated gaze. "Yeten, I've searched high and low for you." Meng Shuren came after receiving the tip from Accountant Liu. "Come home with me. The whole family is waiting for you. I'll marry you. I've already submitted the request to join the campaign to the division commander." "Stop joking around. I've endured enough blame during these 6 months you've been gone." His handsome face was etched with exhaustion. "Thank God you're safe. I'd never forgive myself if anything had happened to you." Hearing he was willing to marry me brought me neither excitement nor happiness, because to me, it had become a matter of complete insignificance. "Commander Meng, thank you for saving me, but you should leave. I won't marry you, I made that perfectly clear before." Slap. Meng Shuren was flushed with anger. "Yi Tan, don't push your luck. I've already compromised. What more do you want? This won't end well for you if you keep this up. You're just jealous of Qi Rongrong, aren't you? There's nothing between us. We're just kindred spirits." I shook my head firmly. "I'm not being difficult. I just don't want to marry you. Whether you marry Qi Rongrong or someone else is none of my business. If you're worried about explaining to Uncle and Aunt Meng, I'll write them a letter saying I'm the one who doesn't want to marry you, so they'll stop pressuring you." Hearing this, Meng Shuren finally believed for the first time in both our lifetimes that I didn't love him anymore. I no longer wanted to be his wife. His face showed shock, confusion, then relief. I could understand all that. He's finally rid of me, this heavy burden. But why this lingering sense of loss? Are you serious? Dead serious? I've already taken out stationery to write to Uncle Meng and Auntie Meng. "Yi Tan, it's not that I feel nothing for you at all. It's just that everyone keeps saying I owe you. I feel pressured, thinking marrying you was just checking off a box. That's why I resisted. I didn't want to." He fumbled for words, trying to explain. "Stop. None of this matters anymore." I handed the letter to Meng Shuren. "Commander Meng, we're free men now." Life went on after Meng Shuren left. Before I knew it, year's end arrived, time to visit my parents' graves back home. After 9 months of hard work in Shenzhen, I'd saved up 30,000 yuan. Coming back to the village like this, I was truly returning in glory. I was dressed in fine clothes, a red down jacket on top and black knee-high boots below. This outfit wasn't just uncommon in the mainland, most people had never even seen anything like it. Since Shenzhen is close to Hong Kong, fashion and styles mostly come from there. The latest trends arrive years ahead of mainland cities, let alone rural areas. My arrival caused a sensation throughout the whole village. Dozens of kids swarmed around me. I'd brought loads of New Year treats, just the white rabbit candies alone filled a whole bag. Everyone gets a share. The kids were over the moon. After my parents passed away, many kind villagers in our community helped and looked out for me. I'll never forget their kindness. I visited their homes to deliver Lunar New Year red envelopes. Each envelope contained 200 yuan. That's an absolute fortune. Got the whole village buzzing again. Everyone's green with envy that I'm making it big out there. Of course, Uncle Meng and Auntie Meng got their own special red packets. Each packet had 1000 in it. After all, they raised me for 10 years, even though I couldn't become their daughter-in-law. I'll never forget their kindness. Uncle Meng stubbornly refused the red envelope and eventually got worked up about it. Girl, I'd be ashamed to take your money. Our Meng family has wronged you. Aunt Meng burst into tears. My dear, that foolish son of mine didn't deserve your love. I could only comfort them. It was the 29th day of the lunar year. Uncle Meng and Aunt Meng insisted I stay overnight. Just then, 2 more people came in with a gust of cold wind. Meng Shuren returned for New Year celebrations with Qi Rongrong. Meng Shuren stared at me in stunned silence. Chapter 4. Qi Rongrong glared at my down jacket and knee-high boots with such burning envy it could have set them on fire. 4. Now that they're back, I'd rather not stay at the Meng's place. It'd just make things awkward for everyone. But Aunt Meng absolutely refused to let me leave. They completely ignored Qi Rongrong as if she were thin air. In the end, I stayed in my original room. Aunt Meng finally started speaking to Qi Rongrong. No proper status. No sharing a room. We won't have people laughing at us. That evening, Aunt Meng put Qi Rongrong in Meng Shuren's room while banishing Meng Shuren himself to the storage shed. There wasn't even a stove in there, freezing cold in winter. Not that Aunt Meng cared one bit. She muttered under her breath, "Freeze to death, you heartless scoundrel." It was a restless night's sleep. First, Kirangron needed the bathroom at midnight but refused to use the outhouse, claiming it was filthy. In the end, Meng Shuren had to go borrow a chamber pot. Aunt Meng naturally grew even more displeased with Qi Rongrong. "This is how we country folks live. Don't like it. Nobody invited you." Qi Rongrong's eyes welled up with angry tears. Meng Shuren couldn't hold back anymore. "Mom, enough already. Like a rooster with a long tail, sons forget their mothers when they take wives." Aunt Meng pointed at Meng Shuren. "If you marry her, don't call me mother anymore." The commotion didn't die down until well past midnight. Early the next morning, as I prepared to visit my parents' graves, I discovered my bright red down jacket had been slashed over a dozen times with scissors. No need to ask. It had to be Qi Rongrong's doing. That woman had gone mad with jealousy, and after clashing with Aunt Meng, she took all her frustrations out on me. I'm fine. But Uncle and Aunt Meng are furious. Even Meng Shuren lost his temper with Qi Rongrong for the first time. "Rongrong, apologize. How could you do this?" She looked at me with guilt written all over her face. "Ah, Yi Tan, I'm so sorry. How much is this outfit? I'll pay for it." "Forget it. It's not worth much anyway." I didn't make a fuss, but Qi Rongrong started screaming hysterically. "What's a country bumpkin like you pretending to be? Who do you think you are, wearing such fancy clothes?" "Humph, where'd you get that money from anyway? I've heard shameless women go south to sell themselves. Guess that's what you've been doing too." A sharp slap rang out. This time, it was Meng Shuren who struck the blow. He pointed at Qi Rongrong. "Shut your mouth. You hit me. I hate you." Qi Rong ran off in tears. Meng Shuren didn't chase after her, but stood there torn, staring at me. "Yi, go after her. I'll be fine. I'm visiting the graves." I left the Meng household to visit my parents' graves. That same day, I departed the village. Whatever happened between Meng Shuren and Qi Rongrong afterward was none of my concern. When spring came, Meng Shuren made another trip to Shenzhen, brought me a matching red down jacket, said it was to make up for it. I accepted it, yet he refused to leave. 5. Yetin, I was wrong before. The truth is, I still think you're the one for me. Rongrong is just too high maintenance. I messed up before. I didn't appreciate what I had when I had it. Poetry is for occasional reading, not for daily living." His eyes were filled with remorse. Meng Shuren asked tentatively, Can we still get? It's all in the past." He left with resignation. After that, he wrote me nearly every month, letters I never opened. I just tossed them straight into the stove to burn. Before I knew it, by the end of the second year, I'd already opened 3 restaurants. I now have over 30 employees working under me. My annual income has surpassed 100,000. When I returned to my hometown, I didn't tell a soul. just paid respects at my parents' graves and left before dawn. Through my connections, some folks from back home have come to work in Shenzhen. I always do my best to help. I heard that in '87, Meng Shuren still ended up marrying Qi Rongrong. Qi Rongrong forced his hand. Meng Shuren never wanted to get married. Later, Qi Rongrong drugged him. Qi Rongrong made such a scene at the division headquarters that Meng Shuren had no choice but to marry her. But the couple constantly quarreled and had a strained relationship. Qi Rongrong also didn't get along with her in-laws. In the end, Meng Shuren volunteered for frontier duty, leading to their long-term separation and leaving them childless. Then came the 1990s. I had become the chairman of a publicly listed company. Our business ventures expanded beyond catering into tourism, film production, and real estate. After all, I've been reborn. Naturally, I know which industries are the next big thing. My personal fortune has already surpassed $1 billion, but I've never married. Men are dull. My career is my lifelong partner. The next time I heard about Meng Shuren was in '94. He got fired. It all started when Qi Rongrong insisted on moving abroad, complaining about low wages at home and wanting to live the high life overseas. Meng Shuren refused. He was already the division chief of staff at that time, overseeing substantial training funds. Qi Rongrong shockingly embezzled the funds in a mad attempt to flee abroad. Though later apprehended, Qi Rongrong was imprisoned. Meng Shuren was also discharged from the military for dereliction of duty. By then Uncle Meng and Aunt Meng had passed away, so naturally I lost all contact with him. Another 20 years passed, and it was 2024. I turned 60. The same age I was when I was reborn in my previous life. My net worth has reached 30 billion. I remain single. Yet I've devoted myself to numerous philanthropic causes. That day, my assistant drove me to attend a charity awards gala. Passing through the underground parking lot, I noticed an elderly security guard dozing off inside, wearing a tattered green uniform. Meng Shuren, long time no see. Story 2. The system declared my mission failed on the day Peiyu threw a victory banquet for his white moonlight. The very woman who'd bullied him, she ruined his family and nearly landed him in prison. Yet Peiyu still crippled my hand for her sake, letting her steal my glory. When resetting, the system asked, "Would you like to change your target?" I nodded. So that rainy night, I chose not to save him. Yet this man came drenched to the bone. He stared fixedly at the man standing beside me, his voice trembling. "But you always doted on me the most." 1. On the day Peiyu attended the victory banquet with Yen Yu, I was imprisoned in the villa, watching everything unfold through a live stream. The perfectly tailored black suit accentuated his long legs. Peiyu's proportions on screen were nothing short of perfection. Standing beside him, Yen Yu smiled warmly as she answered the reporter's questions. When asked about the inspiration behind YU, Yen Yu paused momentarily, then she turned to Peiyu beside her, linking arms with him. "The person I'm most grateful to is also the one I owe the deepest apology. That's why I want to spend the rest of my life making it up to him." Everyone caught the underlying meaning in her words. Under the spotlight, Peiyu slightly furrowed his brows but remained silent, nor did he reject her approach. The large screen behind them then displayed that painting at just the right moment. My gaze shifted from Peiyu to that painting, momentarily transfixed. It was the finest work I'd ever painted, and also my last, because after finishing it, Peiyu crippled my hands. Yen Yu stood beside him, wearing that same haughty expression as always. Yet she learned to play vulnerable before Peiyu. She said, "Ayu, as long as she keeps painting, I'll never reach the top. You'll help me, won't you?" So Peiyu crippled my hand. He even imprisoned me for 2 years just to keep me from causing more trouble. Yet now, Yen Yu is basking in glory using my paintings. How utterly ridiculous. I smirked bitterly and averted my gaze, refusing to watch any further. The system officially informed me that my current mission attempt had failed again. Am I about to be erased? Though I'd always feared death, I found myself saying these words with unexpected calm. No. The system paused before responding. "There's one final chance remaining. This time, are you considering switching your target?" I froze for a moment. "She's an exceptional painter. I believe she'll go far." Peiyu's voice chimed in at just the right moment. His response was very diplomatic. But as he said this, Peiyu's gaze lingered on the painting behind him. Everyone thought he was referring to Yen Yu. As I looked at Peiyu, I suddenly laughed. Of course, to survive, I must complete the conquest mission. I've tried conquering Peiyu 6 times, failing every single attempt. On the 6th attempt, I truly believed I'd succeed. Then Peiyu's first love, Yen Yu, returned from abroad. Even though this spoiled heiress had once ruined Peiyu's family and nearly landed him in prison, yet the moment Yen Yu reappeared, Peiyu would still choose her without hesitation. So on the 7th attempt, I decisively switched my target. Screw being some pathetic simp. I'm done with this shit. Your target this time is He Yuebai. The moment He Yuebai was mentioned, an image of flamboyant red hair instantly flashed through my mind. Those peach blossom eyes that should have been full of tenderness were instead perpetually clouded with impatience and irritation. After a brief silence, I chose my words carefully. If I recall correctly, this gentleman doesn't seem particularly fond of women. Having stood by Peiyu during his comeback, I'd naturally met many people through him. The He family stood as an immovable oak, and thus He Yuebai grew up sheltered within its mighty branches. I've met He Yuebai a few times, but every time we met, he never gave me a friendly look. Later I learned he treats all girls that way, yet Peiyu particularly disliked this young master of the He family. He told me to stay away from He Yuebai. I don't like the way he looks at you. I thought this was Peiyu showing jealousy, so even though I didn't see anything wrong with He Yuebai, I happily agreed anyway. It wasn't until later, when I saw Peiyu violently beating up Yenyu's suitors out of jealousy, that the penny finally dropped. That's not jealousy, just pure toxic possessiveness acting up. Peiyu couldn't stand others laying a finger on what's his. This is your last chance. The system fell silent for a moment before mechanically uttering two words. Good luck. Fine then, I shrugged. As long as it's not Peiyu anymore, that's fine. 3. He Yuebai is hard to approach, though we attended the same school. The young master of the He family skipped classes so often that I could never corner him. Even when I spotted him, He Yuebai was always surrounded by a crowd of friends and admirers. Unlike the reclusive Peiyu, He Yuebai's popularity bordered on excessive. During that time, I did run into Peiyu a few times. The timing always seemed off. I kept stumbling upon scenes where he was being bullied. Most of the time, it was Yenyu and her lackeys orchestrating the whole thing. That arrogant young mistress seemed to take pleasure in tormenting Peiyu. The worst incident was when I watched her order people to beat Peiyu before pressing a lit cigarette into his neck. If you come with me, your parents might have an easier life, Yenyu said with a vicious grin. What do you say? The Pei family's business survived by clinging to the Yen family's coattails. Peiyu had been taught since childhood never to defy Yenyu. He kept his head down, silent. Yenyu waited for a long moment. She must have grown impatient from waiting. Just as she was about to speak when Peiyu abruptly raised his head. No, the youth's voice was hoarse, yet his tone carried an unsettling indifference. Though his words were rejection, his gaze swept past Yenyu standing before him, landing directly on me. I froze for a split second before quickly regaining my composure. Peiyu spotted me. I won't agree to this, but he quickly averted his gaze, staring darkly at Yenyu. You disgust me. This was dialogue that hadn't appeared in the previous 6 playthroughs. Or perhaps it's because every time before, I'd rushed to protect Peiyu, so I never got to see how things would unfold, but this time, I chose to turn a blind eye. I think he's got a masochistic streak. I complained to the system. After all that bullying, he still adores Yenyu. Unbelievable. The system reassured me. Don't worry about it. We don't need to win him over this time anyway. As I walked away, I didn't notice Peiyu's gaze lingering on me again. 4. While unable to get close to He Yuebai, I thoroughly enjoyed my long-lost college life. Before that, my whole world had revolved around Peiyu. From this perspective alone, He Yuebai makes a great conquest target. I mused. The system remained silent, but soon gave me an opportunity to approach He Yuebai. On the anniversary of his mother's death, He Yuebai would get injured in a reckless driving accident. Staring at the gloomy sky, I found myself unusually distracted. I've always hated going out on rainy days. Choose Xiaohu Bot for secure document protection and bookfinding services, reliable, stable, and hassle-free. But in all 6 previous attempts, I'd still venture out into this rainy night, suppressing my irritation and panic to search for Peiyu. Because on this day, Yenyu forced Peiyu to retrieve the necklace she'd deliberately discarded. Peiyu's poor health couldn't withstand the all-night downpour. The resulting high fever nearly cost him his life. I tried to stop him, even attempted to drag Peiyu away by force, but nothing worked. So I ended up accompanying Peiyu on 6 separate necklace hunts, watching him clutch it protectively against his chest each time. It's all in the past now. The system said, you should go find He Yuebai. I nodded. I know, so I opened my umbrella and took a path completely opposite to the previous 6 attempts. 5. I never expected He Yuebai to be not just hot-tempered, but also ridiculously vain. When we found him, his car's front end was crumpled beyond recognition, and he was barely conscious. The guy still had the nerve to threaten me with his last ounce of strength. Don't you dare tell anyone about this. As soon as he finished speaking, He Yuebai passed out, startling me into immediately calling 120. Fortunately, his injuries weren't serious, just a minor leg wound, and he only fainted because the idiot can't stand the sight of blood. Knowing the truth, I ultimately chose to remain silent, but this was a rare opportunity to get close to Hiyubai, so I stayed, waiting quietly outside Hiyubai's hospital room, until a pair of dripping wet shoes suddenly entered my view. I looked up in surprise, only to meet a pair of pitch-black eyes. So dark they seemed to swallow all light. It was Pei-yu, who should have been searching for the necklace. His gaze bore into me relentlessly. His gaze swept right past me, landing on the wide-open hospital room. You went to see him, Pei-yu stated flatly. He paused, then murmured, so you've chosen him. I frowned slightly, sensing something amiss. The next instant, Pei-yu's eyes abruptly reddened. He instinctively reached out to grab me, his voice trembling and barely above a whisper. You always doted on me the most. Six consecutive attempts were enough to show me every facet of Pei-yu's personality. Normally aloof, the rare emotions he did show were always because of Yenyu, but I'd never seen Pei-yu like this before. He gripped my wrist like a drowning man clutching driftwood, buying himself just a little more time in this world. The phrase last straw suddenly flashed through my mind, but how could that be? I forced a smile, my gaze indifferently resting on Pei-yu's hand gripping my wrist. That man has always been utterly heartless toward me. I tried to wrench my hand free from Pei-yu's grip, but failed. I turned my head to look at him, eyes flashing with just the right mix of surprise and displeasure. Who are you? Who are you? I'm here to save you. I've repeated this conversation 5 times before. The system told me that someone like Pei-yu, trapped in darkness, would be more easily drawn to their savior. So I followed its advice and failed 5 consecutive attempts. Only through these painful experiences did they come to realize one cruel truth. Pei-yu was the kind of person who'd only drag others down into deeper darkness. He never expected anyone to redeem him. All he wanted was to make others rot in the same dark corner as himself. On my 6th attempt, I ignored the system's prompts and watched coldly as Pei-yu was trampled underfoot. Then I crushed those bullies the same way. Turning to Pei-yu with a wild grin, learn to use me however you want, just like this. Who are you? I'll be the one standing by your side in the future. The truth proved Pei-yu was better suited to approach this way. That's why the 6th attempt became my longest persistence in this pursuit, yet it still ended in failure. I am. Pei-yu's voice snapped me out of my wandering thoughts. My gaze instinctively turned toward him. Through 6 attempts at this challenge, I've learned a great deal. For instance, I've become quite the actor these days, so Pei-yu genuinely believed the current me didn't recognize the present him. Then I saw it, a spark lighting up deep in his eyes. Pressing his lips together, he attempted a faint smile in my direction. I am the future standing. What the hell are you two doing at my door? 7. Hiyubai was an utterly arrogant man. This was evident when he, despite limping with a cane, still tried to raise it to point at Pei-yu in a show of dominance, but he forgot his injured leg couldn't support the motion. And so Hiyubai took a tumble. Instinctively, I shook off Pei-yu's hand and rushed to help him up. This time, Pei-yu couldn't stop me. Who the hell are you? Hiyubai didn't look up, instinctively trying to shove my hand away. Who said you could just? The remaining touch me died in his throat. I watched Hiyubai stare at me blankly before he finally turned away with a quiet fuck. Damn, this little thing is just perfect for me. He said it very quietly, but I still heard it. What little thing? Me. Who the hell is he talking about? Hang in there. The system comforted me. This is your last chance to complete the mission after all, so I endured it with a smile. I'm the one who saved you. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Pei-yu's body stiffen abruptly at my words. Composed. I turned to Hiyubai and extended my palm toward him. A life-saving fee plus hush money. Since you're such a cute little thing that suits my fancy, I'll settle for 25 grand. Hiyubai's face flushed crimson then paled with rage. I thought he was angry about me extorting him. But his actual grievance was, am I only worth 25 grand? Hiyubai pointed at himself in disbelief, but quickly averted his gaze when his eyes met mine. The tips of his ears turned pink as he cleared his throat, his voice growing quieter. You should at least add 2 more zeros to that. This turn of events was truly unexpected, so I fell into silence. Then I turned to the system and sighed. If you'd just changed the target to Hiyubai earlier, would we have wasted so much time and opportunities? The system went silent too. 8. Hiyubai couldn't stand for long, so I rolled up my sleeves to help him back to bed. Just as I was wondering whether to change my approach, Pei-yu suddenly spoke. Hiyubai. His gaze swept indifferently past me before finally settling on Hiyubai. In a strictly professional tone, he asked, are you going back to the dorm tonight? Back to the dorm? Hiyubai raised an eyebrow and gestured at his leg. Do I look like I can make it back in this state? Pei-yu nodded. Unauthorized overnight absence. 1 strike. It finally dawned on me that Peiyu was the student council president. The school conducts routine dorm checks, and repeated overnight absences will affect final comprehensive evaluation scores. Hiyubai remained utterly unfazed, even though he could easily argue this didn't count as an overnight violation. Peiyu then turned his gaze to me, quickly regaining his composure. He asked, "What about you?" Of course she's going back." Before I could speak, Hiyubai jumped in to speak for me. His tone was still impatient. "The girl was just helping me get to the hospital, that's why she's back late. Surely our esteemed President Pei isn't heartless enough to mark this as a curfew violation." Peiyu remained silent, just watching me quietly, avoiding his gaze. I frowned slightly at Hiyubai. "Can you manage alone? A real man never says can't." Hiyubai corrected me with a stern face. Without his cane, he hopped on one leg to fish my phone from my pocket, then pursed his lips to signal me to unlock it. "You should polish your extortion routine," Hiyubai said with a smile, deftly typing his number. "Next time you collect debts, remember to display your payment QR code. My phone number's my WeChat ID. Don't forget to add me later." I couldn't keep up with his pace and ended up being nudged forward. "Alright, head back to school. Thanks for today." Before leaving, I heard Hiyubai click his tongue again, clearly a straight-a-goody two-shoes. Can't have me ruining her scholarship chances. I halted mid-step. 9. Hiyubai was right. I really do need that scholarship. The system didn't exactly give me a wealthy background, so I had to rely on work-study programs and scholarships to cover my daily expenses and tuition. I once asked the system, since I'm supposed to win Peiyu over, why couldn't I be given a powerful enough status to rival Yenyu? The system paused before replying. It'd give us away. The realization hit me almost immediately. Before being brought into this world, I was just an ordinary girl in every sense of the word. I had just finished my college entrance exams. The university life I'd long dreamed of would unfold in this completely unfamiliar world. Whether it's Yenyu or Peiyu, they truly belong to a different world from mine. I've never been part of their world. If forced into it, I'd be exposed as an outsider. So those previous failed attempts were inevitable. I don't have the protagonist's plot armor. The only one I can rely on is myself. I rely on these repeated cycles to memorize every crucial event, but I won't pin all my hopes on histories that could change at any moment. So I have no choice but to grind through strategy after strategy, using this time to absorb knowledge like a sponge and constantly better myself. That's how I went from desperately clinging on for 10 days during my first attempt to enduring 10 years later on. Only through this could I confidently tell Peiyu during my 6th playthrough, "You can learn to use me however you want." In the end, I still failed. Was it bitter? Absolutely, but I just wanted to go home so badly. 10. As I turned the corner, I instinctively glanced back one more time. Hiyubai was still standing by the doorway, leaning against the doorframe. He waved when he noticed me looking, only to be promptly shooed into his room by a passing nurse. I couldn't help but smile. Peiyu and Hiyubai are truly polar opposites. Peiyu kept staring at me, his eyes brimming with suffocating intensity. I knew, but I chose to feign ignorance. After all, whatever he's become now has nothing to do with me anymore. I'll handle this, the system assured me. He won't interfere with your mission. When Peiyu approached me with those words, I immediately realized, this world's Peiyu must have been reborn. This had never happened before. I murmured then suddenly asked, "How exactly will you handle it? Erase all his memories?" I froze momentarily, my footsteps unconsciously slowing. "What's wrong?" Peiyu asked hoarsely. He deliberately slowed his pace, yet maintained half a step's distance from me. "Senior Pei." I smiled at him proactively with curious warmth. "Do you know me?" A fleeting daze crossed Peiyu's expression. Then came his reply, "Your speech at the opening ceremony was remarkable. During freshman orientation, I delivered a speech as the student representative before the entire university." Peiyu let out a faint cough after speaking. His soaked clothes still clung to him, 2 feverish spots of color blooming unnaturally across his pallid face. A passing nurse noticed and couldn't help remarking, "You should change those clothes. You'll catch your death like this." Peiyu remained silent. He just watched me quietly, his eyes brimming with unmistakable anticipation. I smiled but didn't even bother to humor him with a perfunctory response. I watched the light in Peiyu's eyes gradually dim, then I cut him off right as he was about to speak. "By the way, Senior Pei, are you close with Senior Hiyubai?" Peiyu's breath hitched in his throat. He murmured the name quietly, his entire demeanor darkening once more. Pretending not to notice, I ran my fingers over my phone and chuckled. "Yes, I want to pursue Senior His hand at his side clenched abruptly as Peiyu forced a bitter smile, his voice hoarse. "Jiang Chan, don't joke about this. Senior Pei, I want to pursue you." Peiyu, Can't you like me even just a little, Pei-yu? This time it was my turn to watch Pei-yu in silence. I saw him avert his gaze in flustered discomfort, looking utterly disheveled. Then with a smile, I countered, I'm completely serious. Senior Pei. I think I've fallen for Senior He at first sight. I'm completely serious about this, and I'm ready to pursue him. Pei-yu remained silent. He simply used changing clothes as an excuse to avoid my hopeful gaze. Watching his near-panicked retreat, I suddenly burst out laughing. No need for deletion, I told the system. He can't affect me. I want Pei-yu to remember. I want Pei-yu to watch with clear eyes as Jiang-chan steps out of the abyss called Pei-yu. The system neither agreed nor refused. It just inexplicably said as I left, "You've changed." I shrugged. Even clay figures have their limits, let alone this being my final chance. 11. If winning Pei-yu's heart is hell-level difficulty, then He-yu-bai is literally an angel among angels. Even just one online conversation could make his affection for me skyrocket several notches. Sometimes I even get this hazy feeling that He-yu-bai would voluntarily walk toward me step by step if I just stood there. But that thought only lingered briefly. After all, he's still hospitalized with a leg injury and can't leave. Whenever I visited He-yu-bai at the hospital, his room was always packed with visitors. The guy's popularity is almost ridiculous. He-yu-bai's buddies would always tease me with knowing smirks whenever I showed up, playful ribbing, but never mean-spirited. Before this, everyone around Pei-yu thought I wasn't good enough for him. To them, I was just some opportunist who swooped in when Yen Yu wasn't around. I walked in calmly and placed the bouquet in my hands down. He-yu-bai, the usually arrogant young master, didn't blush under his friend's teasing, except when he saw me approaching. His ears quietly turned red, he cleared his throat slightly, glanced at the bouquet I'd set down, and immediately frowned. Don't bring these useless things next time. Before I could even respond, he froze in surprise. Probably realizing his unintentionally commanding tone, He-yu-bai instinctively blurted out, I didn't mean, alright, I didn't overthink it. After all, I'd heard that same tone countless times when pursuing Pei-yu, so I asked him, should I bring more fruit next time? That just made He-yu-bai's friends tease us even more. Wow, sis-in-law is so thoughtful. Don't spoil brother He like this. You've got to stand your ground and teach him some manners. I instinctively glanced at He-yu-bai, only to find him staring unblinkingly back at me. He seemed faintly angry. I froze, unable to pinpoint what I'd said to upset him. When they saw me approaching, his friends exchanged a few brief words with He-yu-bai before making meaningful eye contact and tactfully excusing themselves. They even thoughtfully closed the door for us. I was just about to break the awkward silence when He-yu-bai unexpectedly scooted over and patted the space he'd made beside him. I silently glanced at the empty chair nearby. Me. Crossing his arms, He-yu-bai raised an eyebrow at me. Weren't you the one who told Pei-yu at the hospital that you'd chase after me? Then let out a heavy sigh, wearing the exasperated expression of I gave you the chance but you blew it. Is this how you pursue someone? I was speechless. Never expected the words I'd used to hurt Pei-yu would be known by this person. Without hesitation, I took the seat beside him, only to be amused by young Master He's reaction. For all his bold talk about inviting me over, he turned rigid as a board the moment I actually sat down, his ears burning crimson. The legendary trash talk champion yet hopelessly innocent young master. My prolonged stare at He-yu-bai's flushed earlobes made him instinctively cover them. After shooting me a glare, he awkwardly changed the subject. Did he give you any trouble that day? No, I shook my head. He-yu-bai clicked his tongue and warned me in a low voice, stay away from that idiot. I often suspect he's mentally unstable, except when around Yen Yu. Pei-yu always maintained a facade of gentleness and propriety. Everyone says Pei-yu is both an exemplary student and an outstanding leader. Only He-yu-bai. I listened as he shamelessly slandered Pei-yu right in front of me, making veiled accusations with such conviction it almost sounded plausible. Isn't he thirsty? Even the usually hands-off system couldn't resist chiming in with a dry remark. A light bulb went off in my head. Nodding, I got up to fetch the glass of water from the nightstand. He-yu-bai was in the middle of his tirade when a glass of water appeared before him. Without thinking, he bent down to take a sip. From my angle, those little curly locks bounced with his every movement. They looked irresistibly touchable. I couldn't help wondering, what kind of reaction would I get if I actually reached out to ruffle them? Then I couldn't help but chuckle. What's so funny? He-yu-bai gave me a puzzled look with a threatening tone. Do you think what I said was ridiculous? Not at all. I think you're absolutely right, I said earnestly. If you've got more to say, by all means continue. He-yu-bai snorted, but there was unmistakable smugness in his expression. Just as I was leaving, the guy suddenly called out to me. He scratched his head, looking torn before finally gritting his teeth. could you come back tomorrow? I never refuse any requests from my targets, so I agreed. Hyubai's expression grew even more conflicted. Beneath that conflict flickered a hint of solemn resolve, like a martyr facing destiny. It made me unbearably curious about the unknown tomorrow, though it had been so long since I'd last looked forward to dawn. 12. The next day, I arrived at the hospital slightly earlier than the scheduled time. Before reaching the ward, I heard a woman's voice scolding Hyubai. Passing doctors and nurses didn't even bat an eye, as if this was completely normal. Only when the woman's scolding reached a fever pitch did he remember his professional duty, murmuring a token no loud noises in the hospital before sauntering off. Hyubai was getting absolutely reamed, his head hung low under the reprimand. Even his usually defiant curly locks seemed to wilt instantly. Poor little thing. I stood frozen at the doorway, torn between entering and retreating. Eventually, Hyubai's brother-in-law noticed me and tugged at his wife who was in the middle of a heated scolding. "You're the young lady who saved Xiaobai the other day, aren't you, Mrs.?" His expression instantly softened, her face breaking into a warm smile directed at me. I noticed Hyubai behind her quickly glancing up at me. His face lit with visible relief and quiet delight. It suddenly dawned on me. So that's why I was summoned, to help him dodge his sister's lecture. Playing along, I gave Hyubai a knowing smile and nodded. The current head of the He family is Hyubai's elder sister. This formidable businesswoman stepped forward during the family crisis, single-handedly upholding the entire vast household. Beyond admiration, I feel something deeper toward her, an aspiration. I once dreamed of becoming someone like Hwani, to Hyubai. Hwani was practically a mother figure in every sense of the word. That's why this cocky young master, who acted fearless everywhere else, would turn as docile as a quail whenever Hwani was around. Hwani showered me with gratitude. Mid-conversation, Hyubai tried to butt in, only to be silenced by Hwani's glare. Watching Hyubai's awkward predicament, I couldn't help but suppress a smile. Just observing how Hyubai and Hwani interacted reignited my intense longing to return home. I lowered my gaze, schooling my expression as I whispered to myself, "Hang in there, Jian-chan, you'll be home soon." 13. Hwani was swamped with work. After a brief visit to Hyubai's hospital room, she hurried off. Before leaving, she slipped me her personal business card. I stared blankly at the gilded lettering in my hand. Then Hyubai gave me a light tap on the head. "If you like this kind of thing, I can get you a whole stack printed," he said with a pout, his voice tinged with jealousy. "You really admire my sister that much? Everyone looks up to Director He." I carefully tucked away the business card and smiled at Hyubai. "I want to shine just as brightly someday." Hyubai froze. Whatever crossed his mind, his handsome face instantly flushed crimson. He looked thoroughly steamed from head to toe. Fidgeting awkwardly, he stammered, "So, do you understand why I asked you here today?" Years of strategic experience put me instantly on alert. I cautiously probed. "So you want me to take the heat from Mr. He's scolding." The flush on Hyubai's face froze instantly. He shot me a glare before turning away, muttering sullenly, "I just wanted to show you I'm not as unapproachable as you think." I froze, unable to stop picturing Hyubai being torn to shreds moments ago. "Seems not quite so unattainable after all. You don't have to compromise yourself just to pursue me. Like yesterday, bringing flowers was thoughtful, but when I snapped at you, you should have called me out." Hyubai continued. He didn't dare to turn and look at me, his words tumbling out faster and faster. "I'm not the kind of person who won't listen to reason. If you just tell me, I'd change. Even if you're trying to pursue me, you can just be yourself." These were words I'd never heard before. In my previous attempts to win Peiyu's affection, I constantly demeaned myself, putting my self-worth at rock bottom. I could hardly ever bring myself to refuse Peiyu's demands, not even when Peiyu crippled my hand that day just to please Yanyu. That's why people always looked down on me, mocking me behind my back as a pathetic simp. The system kept telling me, "Hang in there, once you complete the mission, you can go home, just endure this hardship a little longer." But no one ever told me, never said, "Jiang-chan, even if you're forced to complete these missions, you can still stay true to yourself." 14. Hyubai turned to look at me after saying those words. My reddened eyes seemed to startle him, making him fluster instantly. Fumbling nervously, he explained, "I'm not blaming you. I mean, there's nothing wrong with how you are, but I just think you're pushing yourself too hard." The voice trailed off into silence. In the end, Hyubai simply fell silent and began peeling an apple for me. His apple peeling skills were remarkable. The entire peel came off in one continuous spiral. I nodded and took the apple from Hyubai's hand, taking a bite. "Want some? So sweet. As sweet as the syrup Grandma used to make, just like I remember." Maybe out of guilt, Yubai insisted on hopping on one foot to see me off when I left. I knew he was trying to cheer me up with that clumsy act. This guy's in great physical shape, with exceptional balance to boot, so I played along, laughing as I watched him stagger around. "Hey Yubai," I suddenly said, opening my arms toward him. "Can I get a hug?" Yubai genuinely couldn't keep his balance this time. He stared at me blankly before letting out a defensive snort. "If you want a hug, just take it, why bother asking?" Despite his words, Yubai leaped toward me with open arms. "Here, have your hug." I chuckled and embraced him. Then came this guy's ridiculously proud voice from above. "Feel free to touch more. You won't find many guys at a university with a physique like mine, especially Peiyu, that scrawny frame of his." I could knock him out with one punch. He really couldn't resist every opportunity to put Peiyu down while boosting himself up, so I played along, casually letting my hands brush against a few spots. Just as expected, Yubai was blushing while pretending to be reserved, yet clearly hoping I'd shower him with more compliments. I was about to praise him when my peripheral vision caught a figure lurking in the shadows. It was Peiyu, 15. He stood in the shadows where light couldn't reach, staring unblinkingly at me and Yubai. Then he broke into violent, muffled coughs, as if determined to cough himself to death right there. Yet Peiyu kept watching me, his gaze held near desperation, like someone quietly awaiting death's verdict. For a fleeting moment, I almost believed my sixth attempt had actually succeeded, but what difference did it make? Yubai saw it too. He instinctively tried to pull me behind him, but I stopped him. "Get some rest," I reassured Yubai. "When your leg heals, I'd like you to model for me." God knows what fantasy flashed through his mind. His posture instantly straightened, his broad chest practically launching me backward. "Fine, whatever makes you happy. Don't worry, I'll recover properly," Yubai announced loudly on purpose. He shot Peiyu a smug look before urging me to hurry back. I knew Peiyu had heard those words. Around this time last year, I'd asked Peiyu to model for me. He'd already agreed, but in the end Peiyu chose to model for Yenyu instead, all because of her petty complaint. In that competition, Yenyu emerged victorious in the end. She received that insignificant prize money to her, along with a spot she'd already secured before, while I ended up with nothing. 16. Peiyu followed me out of the hospital. I could hear his intermittent coughing, each hack sounding like he was coughing up blood, but I never once looked back. It wasn't until we reached the central fountain in the hospital's front plaza that I finally stopped. Something just occurred to me, something so distant I'd nearly forgotten. During my first playthrough, I thought Peiyu hated Yenyu, until that day when I accidentally bumped into Peiyu, and the bell in his hand fell into this pond. That was the first time I saw Peiyu lose his usual composure, frantically plunging into the filthy pool he normally despised. He kept groping around, searching for that bell over and over. Only later did I learn that Yenyu had discarded this bell and given it to Peiyu as charity, yet he treasured it like a priceless gem. That's why the system instantly declared my mission a failure. "So Peiyu, how could I ever believe you'd genuinely come to love me?" Suddenly, a lover's quarrel ahead snapped me out of my wandering thoughts. I watched the furious girl yank off her ring and hurl it into the fountain. The boy dove in after it without hesitation. In that instant, his silhouette merged with Peiyu's. I thought I had a chance. Peiyu's voice came from behind me, struggling to steady his trembling voice. He finally whispered with heartbreaking vulnerability, "Why do you keep dodging every chance for us to meet?" I didn't answer, but turned around to gaze quietly at Peiyu. I watched as the hurt on his face gradually faded, his lips pressed into a tight line, his eyes once again dark with brooding malice. "Is it because of Yubai?" Peiyu stated flatly. "Because of him, you've stopped caring for me, haven't you?" His eyes burned into me, as if my slightest nod would send him charging into that hospital to make Yubai vanish from this world forever. So I laughed out loud. "Peiyu," I called his name. Art and finance majors barely share any overlapping courses. Peiyu froze. He seemed to sense something was wrong, his face turning pale as he took a few steps forward to stop me. "Wait, those chance encounters you thought we had, they were all carefully orchestrated. I'd go through your friends, classmates, even club members, just to find out where you might be, then stage those coincidental meetings over and over. I kept showing up in your world, hoping you'd notice me whenever you looked up, though sometimes you wouldn't even see my face. I did occasional shifts as a theme park mascot. After all," a realization dawned on Peiyu. He froze abruptly, his outstretched hand hovering mere inches from my face, too hesitant to move forward. With a smile, I continued, "Do you remember now, Peiyu, that clown who handed you a balloon during your forced amusement park date with Yenyu? That was me, during one of my countless attempts." I learned that Peiyu had been coerced into that amusement park date by Yenyu, worried something might happen. I followed along, but fearing my presence would annoy Peiyu, I took a part-time job as an amusement park clown. Just as expected, Yenyu took Peiyu on the drop tower ride. Despite his severe fear of heights, he still got on. At first I thought Peiyu endured such humiliation solely for his family's sake, but then it occurred to me, someone as formidable as Peiyu, if he truly refused, could Yenyu really force him? The truth is simple, he adores Yenyu and indulges her whims. After exiting the drop tower, Peiyu sat pale-faced on a roadside bench, probably bored out of her mind. Yenyu left him behind and went off to play alone. Seizing the chance when I had a free moment, I handed Peiyu a balloon and started making ridiculous faces to amuse him, but Peiyu never cracked a smile. He just stared blankly at my antics without a trace of emotion, for a fleeting moment. I thought Peiyu recognized me. Later, Yenyu came over to call him. Peiyu thanked me before getting up to leave. I watched him walk over to Yenyu, casually tossing the balloon he'd been holding into a nearby trash bin. Peiyu has always been this indifferent toward people he doesn't care about. That's not true. Perhaps realizing how feeble his explanation sounded, Peiyu quickly pressed his lips together, gazing at me with desperate helplessness, so I told him again, Peiyu. I actually remember everything, Peiyu's cough worsened again. Each hacking cough bent his usually upright frame as he pressed a hand to his reddened eyes. Achan, stop joking around, he gasped. This was the second time Peiyu had told me, don't joke about this, yet I'd never joke with Peiyu. Not ever, so I looked Peiyu straight in the eye and said word by word, Peiyu, you're truly deeply in love with Yenyu, aren't you? So much that I've failed 6 consecutive attempts to win you over. Now that I see this truth clearly, I'm choosing to let you go. Is that so wrong? 17. Peiyu's refusal stuck in his throat, unable to be spoken or swallowed. Though the summer night wasn't cold, he still trembled uncontrollably. Finally, in silence, he pulled a small cloth pouch from his pocket and carefully presented it to me with both hands. He said, you promised I could use this to make a wish. I glanced over. It was a crystal clear amber, cradling a cicada that had slumbered for untold ages. On my 6th attempt, I finally got the chance to travel with Peiyu. We ventured into a primeval forest. Deep in that forest, I stumbled upon a piece of amber with a cicada perfectly preserved inside. I told him, in a way, this amber became an inescapable prison for the cicada, but since their above-ground lifespan lasts barely 80 days, you could say it granted this cicada a strange kind of rebirth. Peiyu, keep this, someday you may exchange it with me for a wish. At that moment, I knew Peiyu would become my own personal prison. But what I truly wished for was to be reborn through him, so I gave that piece of amber to Peiyu. Yet later, that very amber ended up in Yenyu's hands, toyed with carelessly before being discarded. This time, I've no idea where Peiyu found it, but the amber's shape and the cicada trapped inside are the spitting image of the one I'd given him. No matter how similar it looks, it could never be the amber I gave you. Peiyu knew it too. His hand trembled as he held that piece of amber, and he rushed to speak before I could. I have just one wish. You can use me however you want, even if you use me to make Hiyubai fall for you. That's fine. Peiyu's voice choked up as he spoke those final words. It seemed to drain the last of his strength. Peiyu's chest heaved violently. His eyes rimmed red as he pleaded on the verge of collapse. Please. So I silently lowered my gaze to the amber in Peiyu's hand. I picked up the piece of amber. I saw the light in Peiyu's eyes gradually rekindling. But Peiyu, I sighed. That was never anything but a lie from the start. Whether it was me approaching Peiyu, or telling him he could make wishes with this piece of amber, all of it was just one big lie, a lie that could send me home. Besides, you've got nothing I could possibly use. I threw that piece of amber into the pool. I watched Peiyu rush in like a madman to retrieve it, just like that night years ago, only this time, the target had shifted from Yenyu to me. You lied to him. The system suddenly spoke up. You didn't throw away that stone. I smiled and walked away without hesitation. The moment I threw it, I had the system swap out that piece of amber. That wasn't lying. I told the system, better to sever whatever tenuous connection might have existed between us than let him cling to false hope. The system remained silent for a long while before finally saying, you've changed. It paused, then continued, actually, judging by Peiyu's current behavior, your 6th attempt was successful. You're right. Not erasing his memories from the previous life is a far greater punishment for him, not just the previous life. I corrected the system with a smile. He remembers all 6 attempts. That's why Peiyu reacted so strongly when I mentioned the clown. The system fell silent. 18, probably eager to be discharged soon and become my life model. Hiyubai was working hard on his recovery, and taking care of my health. I took a few steps back, staring at his increasingly defined pectorals. Lost in thought. Do you find me repulsive? He keenly picked up on my discomfort. I quickly denied. Not at all. He crossed his arms with a disdainful snort, making it clear he didn't believe me. I spent some time complimenting his physique, then even longer convincing him I wasn't just being polite, until finally the young master was properly appeased. But honestly, he's ridiculously easy to placate. So easy that I sometimes suspect Hyuebi's just teasing me for fun. Hyuebi was supposed to spend the whole day with me in the studio, but something came up and he had to leave early. Before leaving, he glared at me. No last-minute model changes, and absolutely no seeing Peiyu. Hyuebi harbors deep hostility toward Peiyu, and that animosity stems largely because of me. But the thing is, Hyuebi and I had only just met this time. My brush paused mid-stroke as I smiled at him and nodded. Alright. Only then did Hyuebi leave, thoroughly satisfied. But soon enough, the studio welcomed another unexpected visitor, Yenyu, 19. This marked my first proper encounter with Yenyu during the 7th playthrough. Knowing Peiyu meant I understood Yenyu too. The Yen family's young mistress is every bit as hypocritical as Peiyu. No one knew how she bullied classmates behind closed doors. Her parents and Peiyu always cleaned up the mess. Is Peiyu defying me again and again just for you? She studied my face with amused interest. When Yenyu's gaze fell upon my unfinished painting, her pupils constricted sharply, a fleeting flash of jealousy crossing her eyes, but she quickly averted her gaze with practiced nonchalance, sneering, nothing special anyway. I ignored her, simply continuing to pack up my tools. Peiyu has always been my most obedient lapdog, Yenyu continued without anger, but recently this dog has bared its fangs at me. For someone else's sake, she paused, then let out an eerie chuckle. Tell me. How should I deal with this dog, and that damn thief? I zipped up and met her gaze calmly. If it won't obey, just pull its teeth, break its claws, and train it into submission. Simple as that. My thoughts exactly. Yenyu's eyes crinkled with pleasure as she licked her lips, her gaze burning into me. Now tell me, how should I handle that dog thief? I chuckled softly without replying, letting my gaze settle on the figure at the studio entrance. Perhaps Miss Yen might get bitten by a dog, who knows? Yenyu's face darkened instantly, hot-tempered by nature. She instinctively moved to kick over my easel upon hearing this, got intercepted halfway. It was Peiyu. After just a few days apart, he'd grown noticeably thinner. The white shirt hung loosely on his gaunt frame. Peiyu didn't spare me a single glance. His eyes remained fixed on Yenyu as he said calmly, "Aren't you supposed to be preparing for the competition?" "Oh right. The competition." Yenyu arched an eyebrow at me. "I heard you're entering too, though you're both just there to make up the numbers. I'll admit you've got some skill." Her lips curled into a cold smirk, but only some. Before I could speak, a voice cut in. Some mutt must have stolen vinegar. I can smell the sourness from its yapping a mile away. It was Hyuebi, who'd left and now returned. 20. Hyuebi stepped in front of me. He gave Yenyu a once-over and scoffed. "Well, if it isn't the Yen family's old hag, TCH, calling you a dog would be an insult to dogs. They're way cuter than you. What the hell are you?" Yenyu was absolutely livid, yet she dared not make a single move, for Hyuebi's expression had turned thunderous. It was the first time I'd seen Hyuebi radiating such dangerous intensity. For a fleeting moment, I caught a glimpse of the formidable business titan he would become. Peiyu remained motionless, until he saw Hyuebi take my hand, fingers interlacing. He involuntarily took half a step forward before freezing mid-motion. In the end, he forced himself to stare at a fixed spot on the ground. I was a bit surprised too. When I turned to ask Hyuebi, I saw him grinning at me. "You scared my girlfriend." The moment Hyuebi turned to Yenyu, his smile vanished completely. The mood shifted lightning fast. "I've always been a brute, and a little more blood on my hands won't bother me." Hyuebi spoke casually, but the underlying threat in his tone was unmistakable, grinning provocatively at Yenyu, or rather, Peiyu. He taunted. "The He family's never been known for playing by the rules anyway." Yenyu trembled with rage. "Hyuebi, how dare you?" "What wouldn't I dare?" Hyuebi cracked his knuckles. "If you lay a finger on my girlfriend." No sooner had he spoken than Hyuebi swung a heavy punch at Peiyu. "Ah!" Yenyu let out a shriek and instinctively backed away from the two men. Peiyu quickly retaliated after taking the first punch. They traded brutal blows, each punch landing squarely, and soon both were sporting fresh bruises. The commotion quickly drew a crowd. "Hyuebi," I shouted at him, "you won't look good with bruises." Hyuebi froze. Peiyu's fist, which had been about to connect with Hyuebi's face, suddenly stopped mid-air. He looked up at me, Only lifeless emptiness remained in sight. 21. Yenyu had long since fled. Peiyu stayed behind, quietly tidying the chaotic studio. Hiyubai couldn't shoo him away no matter what, eventually muttering curses under his breath. Yet the moment I glanced over, he instantly shut up and even put on this "I'm totally innocent, why are you looking at me" face. It left me torn between amusement and exasperation. Peiyu didn't stay long. Just before leaving, he suddenly said to me, "I'll find it." I ignored him. After Peiyu left, Hiyubai lingered around me for a while before finally turning to ask, "What's he trying to find?" "Maybe he's looking for his missing brain," I replied without looking up. To my surprise, Hiyubai actually agreed. "You're right. That old witch from the Yen family has insulted him like that, yet this dumbass still likes her. He's definitely brainless. And probably sick in the head too." "Exactly." Hiyubai's eyes lit up as he racked his brains. I remember reading about this somewhere. It's called, what was it? Sparta syndrome. It's Stockholm syndrome. I couldn't help but laugh at Hiyubai's antics. "Yes, that's exactly it." Hiyubai broke into a wide grin too. "Hiyubai," I suddenly called out to him, "I've thought of a name for this painting." Before we began, Hiyubai and I had a heated discussion about what to name the competition piece, but in the end, neither of us could agree. "What?" Hiyubai was flipping through my sketchbook when he heard me, looking up with a start, so I walked to the drawing board and leaned over to write 2 letters on the blank paper. "Why you?" Hiyubai froze momentarily when he saw those 2 letters, but he quickly composed himself, putting on a nonchalant air. "I think it's perfect. What matters most is that you like it." Hiyubai said this while deliberately turning his head away from me, so I told him, "It's the U from Hiyubai." Hiyubai froze. I cupped his face and turned it toward me, whispering the words again. "It's the YU that belongs exclusively to Hiyubai." Hiyubai remained silent, but I noticed his earlobes had already flushed a deep red. "Perhaps, it's not just the earlobes." I tapped Hiyubai's slightly reddened eyes with a smile. "Need me to comfort you, my teary-eyed baby?" Hiyubai's face flushed crimson in an instant. He muttered a low "fuck," then finally stretched out his arms toward me, feigning composure through his shyness. "Since you're willing to humor me, I don't mind lending you my embrace." So I smiled and returned Hiyubai's hug, pretending not to notice his little scheme. 22. Spending time with Hiyubai is truly delightful. His affection is straightforward and passionate, showing clear favoritism toward me, yet his ears turn crimson when I playfully tease him. He still tries to maintain composure despite the shyness, secretly longing for more contact. Hiyubai showed me through his actions that he wasn't as unattainable as I'd imagined. With him, I could truly be myself without any pretense. Sometimes it almost felt like he was the one pursuing me, not the other way around. But whenever this thought surfaced uncontrollably, an unsettling emotion would slowly creep into my heart. I know what this is, so I could only keep ignoring it, while trying my best to be nicer to Hiyubai. Even nicer, better still. Somehow, this made me feel less guilty. Peiyu never came looking for me during that time. Rumor has it he ended up becoming Yenyu's model after all. "This actually works out for the best," the system said with audible relief, comforting me. "With Peiyu leaving you alone, you can complete your mission and return sooner. It's a win-win for everyone." I smiled without arguing back. 23. The competition day arrived in no time. Neither Peiyu backed out last minute, nor did Yenyu play any tricks. Without a doubt, I took first place with my piece YU. Hiyubai in the audience seemed even more thrilled than I was. As I walked down, I overheard him casually telling someone nearby, "Hey man, you know who that first prize painting is of?" "It's me. That YU is from my name." With that smug look and his curly mop of hair, I could practically see his imaginary tail wagging furiously. I stayed quiet, letting him show off to everyone one by one. Then when he noticed me, the guy jumped out of his skin and blurted out something obscene. But Hiyubai quickly reined himself in. When he saw how startled I was, he immediately clenched his teeth and forced himself to speak softly. "When did you get here?" "Right when you started repeating yourself." The long-suffering guy beside us couldn't help muttering darkly. Hiyubai shot a discreet glare at the tattletale, caught red-handed. He stared straight at me with feigned indignation. "Why didn't you tell me you were coming?" Unreasonable yet utterly shameless, and completely unapologetic about it. Amused, I replied, "Should I give you a heads up next time? I think it works." Hiyubai pretended to ponder deeply before nodding solemnly. Just as I was about to tease him, I suddenly sensed a hostile gaze fixed on me. It was Yenyu. When our eyes met, she scoffed coldly, then composed herself and stepped onto the stage to deliver her acceptance speech. That's when the accident happened. 24. I've always known Peiyu to be ruthless. His cruelty extends not just to others, but to himself as well. When Yanyu took the stage to speak while a video of her bullying someone played on the screen behind her, I wasn't even surprised. Just a resigned of course this would happen feeling. This was Peiyu's signature move. Build someone up to the heights, then send them crashing down so hard they can never recover, until I heard Yanyu cry Peiyu, in that video, and finally recognized who was in the footage. Stop looking. Hiyubai instinctively raised his hand to shield my eyes. I heard the tension in his voice, hesitated for a moment, then finally pulled his hand away. I held on to Hiyubai's hand, so he didn't make any further moves. Chaos erupted on stage, for the first time. Yanyu lost her composure in public, shouting at people to turn off the video. Only Peiyu stood out like a sore thumb. He stood on the stage, quietly watching me through the crowd before silently mouthing 2 sentences to me. I understood. The first line was, "See, I'm still useful." The second line, "Don't look at me." Peiyu lost his mind. At that moment, this was the only thought left in my mind. He was truly insane. He stripped off his clothes piece by piece before everyone's eyes. The pale, emaciated body bore scars that glared unnaturally, knife scars, cigarette burns. Videos can be faked, but scars can't. Peiyu standing there was the most damning silent testimony to Yanyu's brutality. 25. Peiyu was still staring at me. His eyes held embarrassment, but even more so, pleading. He was begging me to stop looking at him. I knew how proud Peiyu was, and how much he valued his public reputation. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone to such lengths to erase those humiliating memories once he gained the power to do so. Yet now, he's personally shattered everything beyond repair. Under the weight of everyone's astonished or disgusted stares, he stood exposed like a battered relic for public scrutiny and debate. I've achieved my goal. I made Peiyu watch as Jiang walked out of the abyss called Peiyu, then watched Peiyu consciously march step by step towards self-destruction. I should be glad. Yet I feel no joy. I glared at Peiyu with vengeful fury until a sudden warmth covered my eyes. Stop looking. Hiyubai sighed, pulling me into his arms. There's nothing worth seeing here. Enveloped in his tight embrace, my world went completely dark, but I didn't cry, until a piercing scream rang in my ears, followed by the clamor of the crowd. Hiyubai never let go of me. He held me tight as we pushed through the jostling crowd, taking me away from that place. I later learned from the news that Yanyu had gone berserk, attacking Peiyu with a microphone stand. She always carried a small knife with her. She lunged at Peiyu with the knife, only to have it wrested from her grasp. Peiyu used the blade to cripple Yanyu's hand before escaping in the ensuing chaos. The Yan family would never let Peiyu get away with this, but they could never catch Peiyu. I knew. As long as Peiyu didn't show himself, they'd never find him. 26. That night, I had a dream. Strictly speaking, this wasn't exactly a dream. I saw the moment when Peiyu rushed back to the villa after the celebration banquet, only to find my lifeless body. At first, he refused to believe I was dead, so he started destroying the paintings in my studio, trying to provoke my anger. This frenzied state lasted for days until Yanyu finally tracked him down. What are you doing? A flicker of impatience flashed in Yanyu's eyes. She's been pestering you endlessly. Isn't it better this way now that she's gone? You, I'll always stay by your side. You and I are meant for each other. Softening her voice, she knelt down to soothe Peiyu's turbulent emotions. She said, don't ruin all her paintings. I still need these. Peiyu stared at Yanyu with a heavy gaze before finally responding in a hoarse voice. All right. Yanyu assumed Peiyu agreed so readily out of love for her. So when Peiyu later exposed her, leaving her reputation in ruins, Yanyu completely lost her mind. At this point, Peiyu held the majority stake in the Yan family business. You never loved me at all. Yanyu was imprisoned in the basement. She stared fixedly at Peiyu as he entered, letting out an eerie laugh. You're just trying to get revenge. That's why you pretended to love me so much. Does Jiang know? Before Peiyu could answer, Yanyu continued on her own. Oh, she doesn't. That poor fool Jiang devoted herself entirely to you, only to have her hands crippled and be imprisoned in your villa. She giggled maliciously, her eyes glinting with venom as she stared at Peiyu. Tell me, Peiyu, was Jiang still hating you when she died? She was trying to provoke Peiyu. For Yanyu now, death might be a release, so she kept provoking Peiyu, hoping he'd kill her. But Yanyu's plan backfired. Provocation might work on normal people, but Peiyu had already lost his mind. He calmly carried out his revenge against Yanyu. Then days later visited a supposedly miraculous temple alone. Before setting off, Peiyu came to see me. He said he truly, deeply loved me. He admitted he knew exactly why I approached him. He confessed he just didn't want me to leave so soon. I listened in silence as Peiyu revealed many things I never knew. Finally, he told me, Achan, Hiyubai is looking for you. but I won't give you up to him, you belong to me. And only me, even if you hate me, resent me, I'll never let you go. Peiyu murmured these words under his breath, over and over. He remained utterly calm while saying these words, but his eyes held a lifeless void. So for the first time, I spoke to Peiyu in my dream. I said, Peiyu, I still don't believe you love me. My grandmother once told me, if love isn't felt by the one being loved, then it's not love at all. So Peiyu, you don't love me. It was just a dream. Peiyu would never hear it. As I finished speaking, I watched the last remnants of Peiyu's composed facade crumble away. He descended into hell. But this time, Jiang Chan wasn't there to accompany Peiyu. Peiyu still made his way to the Buddhist temple. 53 stone steps lead to the temple gate, 53 bows, each bow bringing one closer to Buddha. Peiyu never put stock in gods or spirits, yet that single time, he bowed at every step. That day, I saw someone else doing the exact same thing, He Bai. The two of us went about our identical rituals without exchanging a single word, and when the abbot asked whom we'd come to honor, we gave the same reply, Jiang Chan, 27, He Bai and I officially became a couple. Before taking me to meet Hewani, he mysteriously retrieved a small black box, insisting we had to wait until meeting her to reveal its contents. Fine then, I left him alone. That night, I kept kicking myself for not stepping in. Besides Hewani, other members of the He family were there that day, so Bai opened that little box, handing out business cards one by one to the He family members. My wife's business card, keep it safe, gold lettering on black background. Besides my name, there were several small characters engraved clearly and unmistakably, my dearest wife. Bai. He truly kept the promise he made to me back then. If you like this kind of thing, I can print you a whole stack another day. I stared silently at the business card in my hand, reasonably suspecting Bai was taking this opportunity to get back at me. When I looked up, I saw him clutching that business card with a ridiculously goofy grin. It was just a business card, yet he held it like he'd been handed the whole world. My heart melted right then. That day, under the He family's bewildered stares, I calmly spoke my praises for Bai. This spirit of enduring humiliation to fulfill obligations deeply moved the He family. Before leaving, sister, he patted my shoulder and said solemnly, you're a good girl, you've suffered too much. Bai happened to overhear this while coming to look for me. He remained silent at the time, but later made me pay for it dearly. In the end, he was the one acting all hurt first. Did I really make you suffer by being with me? Not at all, I answered immediately. Bai was still grumbling, but clearly mostly appeased. Actually, this isn't so bad after all. For a fleeting moment, it crossed my mind. 28. Bai's mission had long been accomplished, yet I still dragged it out until my birthday. He seemed to have noticed something, sticking to me even more closely all day. So on my birthday, I bought a bunch of apples and said to Bai, teach me how to peel an apple. Bai's apple peels were beautifully done. He seemed a bit stunned, but agreed in the end. I'm such a klutz, I've already ruined several apples. When only one apple remained, I finally set down the paring knife. Bai. I licked my dry lips and smiled at him. They say if you make a wish while peeling an apple and the peel stays unbroken, your wish will come true. So, what would you wish for? Bai's hands paused midair as he was arranging the apple slices. Looking up at me with a slight eyebrow raise, he asked, why are you asking about my wish? Because it's my birthday today. I already made a wish when eating the birthday cake. Well, I could say I'm great at peeling apples and make my own wish then. Bai chuckled at my remark. That's different. I shook my head vigorously. Peeling apples is as easy as eating for you. Wishes lose their magic if you make them too often. Look at me. I've never succeeded even once. I tapped the pile of apple peels on the table, then waved the last apple at him with a playful smirk. So if I nail it this final time, your wish is guaranteed to come true. Last apple. Huh. Bai paused, clicked his tongue, then chuckled ruefully. Had I known you'd burn through them like this, I'd have stocked up more. Make a wish, quick, a wish. Huh. Bai stroked his chin in mock contemplation. Just as I was growing impatient, the man suddenly smiled at me. All right then, I'll make one. I wish my Gigi could return to her true self. Now it was my turn to be stunned. That's cheating, I grumbled. You were supposed to make your own wish, but that is my wish. Bai sat beside me, his gaze impossibly tender. Gigi will help me make it come true, won't you? A sudden lump formed in my throat. 29. I peeled that apple with extraordinary care, yet obstacles still arose. The moment I sensed something was off, I couldn't tell whether it was relief or some other emotion stirring in my chest. But the next second, Bai grabbed my hand. He clicked his tongue. Knew you couldn't make it without me. Same old cocky, arrogant tone. but I saw Hiyubai's eyes were already rimmed with red. Holding my hand, he painstakingly completed the final task. The peeled fruit skin looked far less even and neat than when Hiyubai did it alone, yet it remained unbroken. I stared blankly at the apple in my hand, then burst into tears and laughter. The clock ticked relentlessly toward midnight. The system's departure countdown had already begun. Sniffling, I suddenly grabbed Hiyubai's hand. Hey Hiyubai, I need to tell you a secret. The truth is, I don't actually like you. I know. Hiyubai remained eerily calm, wiping away tears I hadn't realized were falling. His fingers trembled with restrained emotion. This isn't much of a secret anymore, but I want to share something about myself too. What is it? Peiyu isn't the only extraordinary person in this world. As he leaned forward, I noticed a business card tucked in his breast pocket, gold lettering on black. Hiyubai's beloved wife. My lips parted, but words caught in my constricted throat. Ding. Departure countdown. 10, 9. I forced myself to speak faster. But I truly want to invite you to my world. My grandmother's sweet soups are legendary. Hiyubai couldn't bring himself to say I know, because he could never visit my world, nor ever taste just how sweet my grandmother's soups really were. Then he leaned down and kissed me. Well then, I hope I'll get to try it someday. Gigi, remember to pay more attention to those around you next time. When one path doesn't work out, trying another might just lead to success. Someone will always come along just to love you. You're that wonderful. I always believed my name symbolized my troubled fate, yet only Hiyubai told me, no, it represents rebirth, an eternal cycle of renewal. That is the cicada's rebirth. The moment the words left my mouth, I spotted Peiyu standing behind Hiyubai, someone I hadn't seen in ages. His hat obscured most of his face. He stood frozen, staring at me unblinkingly yet too hesitant to take even half a step forward. Truth be told, there were still so many things I wanted to say to Hiyubai. The system's countdown has ended, mission accomplished, preparing to exit the virtual world. But Hiyubai, I never got to tell you my birthday wish. I wish I could see you again. Just to say, I truly liked you all along. In the final second before consciousness faded, I heard the drawn-out wail of a siren. I saw Hiyubai's red-rimmed eyes as he struggled to force a smile. He said, I love you. Behind him, Peiyu silently mouthed the same words. I love you. Congratulations on successfully completing the mission. I had a very long dream, extra. In the dream, right after finishing my college entrance exams, I was whisked away to a completely unfamiliar world. The only way to return to my own world was to complete the assigned missions there, yet I kept failing, until the 7th try. I blinked dazedly. Wait, the 7th attempt? How did I suddenly succeed? Sweetie, take these dessert soups out to the customers. Grandma's voice called out to me. That summer after finishing my college entrance exams, I returned to my hometown to help at Grandma's dessert shop. I answered, coming, and hurriedly carried out a few bowls. Someone had left a chair in the middle of the path. I didn't see it in time and nearly took a tumble. Instead of the expected pain, I found myself caught in a warm embrace. A voice both familiar and unfamiliar came from above. Told you, you're hopeless without me. As arrogant and proud as ever, I looked up blankly at the person before me, only to realize my face was streaked with tears. What are you crying for? He fumbled clumsily to wipe my tears, though his own face was clearly more tear-stained than mine. I came all this way just to taste how sweet Grandma's dessert soup is. Oh, and make mine extra sweet. My sister's got a serious sweet tooth. Snapping back to reality, I reached out toward him. Hiyubai, may I pat your head? This was something I'd always wanted to do but never got the chance. Hiyubai froze for a second, though he muttered, patting head stunts growth. His body betrayed him as he took the tray from my hands and bent down slightly, amid the good-natured teasing from surrounding customers. I finally got to ruffle that mop of fiery red curls. Then I told him, Hiyubai, I really, truly like you. So, welcome to my world, Hiyubai. Ding. World integration complete. Final reward delivered. Hope you'll give us 5 stars. Hiyubai side story. 1. Young master. He was a premature baby and quite frail in his childhood, yet he possessed a fiery temper that stood in stark contrast. Like a powder keg, the slightest criticism could set him off. This had given Mrs. He and her daughter quite the headache on numerous occasions. Do you know what people are saying about you, Mrs.? He tapped Xiao Hiyubai's head in exasperation, torn between laughter and frustration. They claim your natural curls came from being buried in firecrackers as a child. Pure jealousy. Hiyubai shook his head vigorously, sending his springy little curls bouncing. His competence, that impeccable trait, shone through him since childhood. Could they even find someone with curls this perfect naturally? Did we call you here to show off? Hiwani rolled her eyes in exasperation, gripping Hiyubai's face with both hands. she hissed through clenched teeth. They came to complain in person. Don't you have anything to say for yourself? Little Hiyubai fell silent. Just as the two adults thought the little troublemaker might show some remorse after hitting someone, Hiyubai's face twisted in solemn determination. Next time I'll beat them so badly they won't dare tattle. Anyone who complains gets another beating. Mother Hiwani remained silent, simply giving her younger brother a sound thrashing in quiet fury, between blows. She kept demanding whether he'd admit his wrongdoing, but the stubborn young master he had been pig-headed since childhood, his face and nose flushed crimson from weeping, yet he refused to yield an inch. Finally, between hiccuping sobs came his defiant cry, "Beat me to death if you must, but I'll still fight them. Who told them to call me a sickly weakling doomed to die young?" Hiyubai had never uttered such words before. Only when truly wronged did this outburst escape him. Mother, he immediately asked with grave concern what had happened. Little Hiyubai turned his head away in stubborn silence. Flushed with frustration, he finally blurted out, "A real man handles his own business." So the little tough guy got punished by copying Buddhist scriptures in the study, then got shipped off to a monastery during vacations for character cultivation. Whether any actual cultivation happened, nobody outside could tell. But young master, he did bulk up considerably. Within a few years, the once pint-sized kid outgrew all his peers. His short fuse hasn't changed a bit. The only noticeable difference was the string of Bodhi prayer beads now adorning his wrist. Young master, he would absent-mindedly fiddle with them from time to time. Noticing how treasured the beads were, someone sidled up with a grin and asked, "Are those things really that fun to play with?" Hiyubai shot him a sidelong glance and sneered. "I wouldn't know about handling prayer beads, but I sure know how to handle someone as obnoxious as you." The man immediately shut his mouth. Ever since the young master took up Buddhist prayer beads, he'd been far less inclined to handle people, yet this precious string of prayer beads inexplicably snapped the moment it touched that girl named Jiang Chan. The scattered Bodhi seeds completely ruined Hiyubai's mood, but he knew he couldn't blame anyone. The girl was merely passing by. Besides, she seemed to be in a hurry anyway, so Hiyubai could only sulk silently, picking up the seeds one by one and clutching them in his hand. 17 beads, yet the mother pearl was missing. Hiyubai wondered if it had accidentally fallen into someone's pocket, but when he looked up, the person was already gone. During that period, young master He's mood grew even darker, often itching to pick a fight with someone, but whenever he confronted others, Hiyubai would inexplicably recall that day's events. The delicate-looking girl who accidentally bumped into him got knocked backward instead, her face betraying unmistakable shock and disbelief. Hiyubai fell silent for a moment, glancing down at his own physique. Had all those recent arm wrestling matches made him look bulkier than before? Young master, he quietly withdrew his challenge-ready hand and walked away. Honestly, that girl's shocked expression sometimes works better than the Buddhist prayer beads. The next time they met, Peiyu was being bullied. Hiyubai knew that Pei family's boy was practically the old witch Yan's lapdog. They'd play with him for amusement when happy, and take out their anger on him when displeased. Those in the know all sighed at Peiyu's misfortune, stuck with those ruthless, status-obsessed parents who left him too intimidated to rebel. Peiyu, too intimidated to rebel. Hiyubai recalled the feral glint he'd once glimpsed in that wolf cub's eyes and scoffed. Frankly, he reckoned there wasn't much Peiyu wouldn't dare to do, but this matter had little to do with him anyway. Hiyubai had previously asked Peiyu if he needed help, only to be turned down. When it's a case of mutual willingness, even the young master wouldn't interfere, so Hiyubai glanced casually and was about to leave, when unexpectedly he spotted that girl named Jiang Chan. The girl stood quietly in the corner watching it all, her face completely expressionless. No, perhaps there was something. For just a moment, Hiyubai sensed overwhelming sorrow radiating from the girl. Due to his health condition, he'd always been acutely sensitive to others' emotions. Somehow, Hiyubai suddenly found himself intrigued, so he reluctantly decided to stay and watch the show, just as Peiyu was being trampled by that group. The young girl sprang into action. It was the first time Hiyubai realized a young girl could fight with such ruthless efficiency. It was the first time he realized this delicate-looking girl could actually knock out a grown man with one punch. It even made his fists itch with the urge to step up and throw down. Fuck, Hiyubai cursed under his breath, yet his gaze toward Jiang Chan grew increasingly bright. Fortunately, what little reason remained held young master he back. The girl crushed those people underfoot just as they had trampled Peiyu, then turned her head with a radiant smile. "You can learn to use me freely, just like this. Who are you? I'll be the one standing by your side in the future." Young master, he twitched his lips, then couldn't help but curse under his breath. Toothache. That line was so cringe-worthy it hurt. he watched the girl flash a radiant smile at the Pei family's young wolf. Yet all that lingered in his mind was her expressionless sorrow when witnessing Pei Yu being beaten. So later, when everyone believed Jiang Chan was madly in love with Pei Yu, only He Weibai sensed something amiss. He never believed in love without reason, especially when Pei Yu treated her so poorly because of Yan Yu, so his curiosity grew even stronger, wondering just how far Jiang Chan would go for Pei Yu. But He Weibai forgot, when someone develops intense curiosity about another person, that's often where affection begins. So if you really asked young master He when he fell for Jiang Chan, even he couldn't tell you. It suddenly struck me one day, if it were him, he'd undoubtedly cherish this girl with all his heart. The moment this thought surfaced, He Weibai himself was startled, but soon he came to accept this truth with remarkable composure. He was in love with Jiang Chan, perhaps from the very first meeting. He felt that face was practically tailor-made to his liking. What's more, they were clearly destined for each other. Those prayer beads never broke before. Why did they snap just as that girl walked by? How is it that out of all the smaller beads, only the single master bead went missing? Young master, he pondered gloomily for several minutes before suddenly slapping his thigh in delight. Those two were truly meant to be, recalling the vile deeds Pei Yu had committed for revenge. He Weibai seriously considered whether to play the homewrecker and steal the girl for himself. Yet even as he contemplated this, an ache crept into his heart. He thought to himself, wasn't he just as good as that little wolf cub? He deliberately or otherwise lingered around that girl so many times, helped her openly and covertly on countless occasions, so why hadn't she spared him a single glance? But young master, he was nothing if not analytical. He concluded two things. First, he was too damn decent, lacking that bastard's scheming nature. Second, he simply hadn't made his intentions obvious enough. After much soul-searching, He Weibai resolved to take the initiative, yet his stint as the green tea he lasted merely a day, because Pei Yu and Jiang Chan became an item. Whether the surrounding congratulations were genuine or perfunctory, He Weibai saw true happiness radiating from Jiang Chan's smile. He Weibai fell silent, and the flowers from that day were never delivered. Later, some family matters arose. Unable to bear seeing his sister struggle, He Weibai volunteered to join the company early to share her workload. Eventually, he went abroad to expand the market. When I saw Jiang Chan again, she stood beside Pei Yu with none of her usual smiles left. She still rushed to Pei Yu without hesitation, but the joy and happiness were gone from her actions. Pei Yu's controlling nature grew increasingly intense. He forbade me from approaching Jiang Chan, he said. I know what's on your mind, but Jiang Chan has feelings for me. That single phrase, Jiang Chan has feelings for me, was enough to turn the fearless master he into a coward. He Weibai ignored Pei Yu's warning. He simply had someone pass his sister's contact information to Jiang Chan, telling her to reach out if she needed anything. His career focus remains primarily on overseas markets, so he spends little time domestically. This later became a source of endless regret for He Weibai. Had he stayed in the country back then, would Jiang Chan still be alive? On the day Jiang Chan died, He Weibai had a dream. He dreamed of Jiang Chan struggling time and again to reach Pei Yu, trying to pull him out of the abyss named Yan Yu. He watched as the once clumsy girl relentlessly pushed herself to become a better version of herself, yet at the same time, he witnessed her gradually losing her true self. In that dream, he also learned of an entity called the system. He realized the little girl did all this just because she wanted to go home, back to where she truly belonged, but in reality, Jiang Chan was already dead. That little girl who longed so desperately to return home never made it back before her death. Would you help her? At the dream's end, He Weibai heard this question posed by a cold, mechanical voice. He recognized that voice. It was the same system that had advised the girl on how to win Pei Yu's heart. He Weibai let out a chuckle. He asked, "Are you trying to make up for your mistakes now? The sin of dragging an innocent girl into this unfamiliar world and letting her get hurt time and again." He Weibai had a fiery temper. Everyone thinks He Weibai is quick to anger, but in truth, he rarely loses his temper. Once when he was called a short-lived devil as a child, and once when his mother passed away. The first time was when Jiang Chan died, and the second time is now. The voice fell silent for a long while. I thought she would succeed this time. It made no attempt to deny its sin, so I shall right this wrong. Then it asked again, will you help her? He Weibai never believed in love without reason. Once again, he willingly surrendered to this intense and passionate love. He had fallen for Jiang Chan more than once. Then he heard himself chuckle softly and say, of course, escorting a lost little girl home, what a meaningful thing to do. Part 2. He Weibai woke up groggily. His legs screaming in agony. Through the haze of memory, he recalled crashing his bike during an emotional joyride, being hemophobic. His first thought when rescued was, "Not a word about this to anyone." How utterly humiliating. The ruthless business tycoon Mr. He clicked his tongue in irritation, cursing internally with an impassive face. He suddenly remembered he should go find Jiang Chan now, but first, he needed to warn his rescuer not to speak carelessly. Wait a minute. Who exactly saved him again? He Yuebai scratched his head, but try as he might, he couldn't recall what the person looked like. The only thing he remembered was that it was a woman. Age really does a number on your memory, with memories spanning 7 lifetimes. He Yuebai truly felt like an old man, a lonely old codger at that, so the poor old soul borrowed a crutch from the neighboring bed, hobbled a few steps, and looked up to see that idiot Peiyu standing at the ward entrance. There was another familiar figure. He Yuebai's eyes flew open as the blurred face he'd glimpsed before losing consciousness slowly came into focus. Great, just what I needed, more humiliation. Fuck, he cursed again, then blurted out instinctively, "What the hell are you two doing at my door? Damn it." He could clearly see that bastard holding his girl's hand, so he Yuebai started hopping even faster. He raised his cane, ready to point at Peiyu in warning. Just as he Yuebai raised his cane halfway, Jiang Chan's concerned glance caught his eye, and a brilliant idea flashed through his mind, so he took a deliberate tumble. Immediately, Jiang Chan wrenched her hand from Peiyu's grasp and rushed to his side, but master, he had always been that tsundere type, all pride and prickliness. He kept his head down and blurted out, "Who the hell are you? Nobody gave you permission to touch." Yet when Jiang Chan's fingers made contact, he Yubai's breath hitched despite himself. Raising his head, he stared dumbfounded at the face he'd secretly gazed upon countless times before. The impeccably tailored black suit accentuated his long legs. Peiyu's on-screen proportions were nothing short of perfection. He could only turn his head away, forcibly hiding his slightly reddened eyes as he muttered a low fuck, but after cursing, he couldn't help but chuckle to himself first. Damn. How the hell does this little thing just happen